He was told that to chase love was noble, that to endure for a woman was the highest proof of manhood. They fed him myths dressed in poetry, rituals of suffering baptized as romance. But no one warned him. What women crave is not strength alone, but strength brought to its knees. Her nature was forged to survive, not to heal you. She tests, not to punish, but to select. And your mistake was thinking selection meant understanding. No, brother. She rewards the man who hides the wound, not the one who opens it. The man who turns agony into silence, duty into poise, and pain into perseverance. And when your kindness fails to move her, when your vulnerability falls unnoticed, you will cry betrayal. But it is not betrayal, it is nature. It is the law you were never taught, that a man must suffer, not to be saved, but to be revealed. They want the lion muzzled, the king humbled, the fire tamed on, called it intimacy. Arthur Schopenhauer saw through this theater. He wrote, "The life of man is a constant struggle for existence with the certainty of defeat, not as despair, but as illumination. Because for the man who offers up his strength as sacrifice, there is no reward, only expectation. She does not see his suffering as a cost she must repay, but as tribute she was born to receive. He believes he is earning her heart. But to her, he is only fulfilling his role. He bleeds, hoping his wounds will earn admiration. But they only confirm his usefulness to the ancient program of survival." For Schopenhauer, love was never a meeting of souls, it was biology playing dress-up. Women, he claimed, evolved to admire not the man untouched by hardship, but the one broken and still standing. He is not loved for his victories, but for how long he can carry burdens in silence. A woman's approval, then, is not a reflection of your virtue, but your endurance, not your joy, but your utility. You think your selflessness will awaken her affection. But what awakens her instinct is not selflessness, is power under strain, strength quietly burning beneath responsibility. You will never be loved more than when you suffer well. This is not hatred, it is architecture. She does not intend to disregard your pain. Schopenhauer did not accuse women of cruelty, he accused men of naivety. He wrote, "Nature has endowed woman for her protection and defense with the art of dissimulation." To the modern ear, this sounds bitter, unfair, but in truth, it is survival disguised as beauty. A woman does not test you to play games. She tests because instinct demands she find the man who endures, who bends without breaking, who suffers without seeking pity. To her unconscious, kindness untested is weakness. Vulnerability without power is noise. It is not evil that guides her trials, it is ancient necessity. The modern man, raised on fairy tales and fantasies of mutual softness, collapses when this truth confronts him. He wants his emotions to be enough. He wants credit for trying. But nature does not give points for effort. Nature is a blade, and women are its silent edge. She mirrors the state of your soul. Your strength is true. She cannot help but feel it. But if your strength depends on her gaze, it is no strength at all. So when your gifts go unnoticed, your devotion dismissed, your effort met with cold winds, do not despair. It is not the end of love. It is the beginning of revelation. She is not cruel for not saving you. She is the forge that proves whether you are worthy of saving yourself. And if that truth wounds you, it only proves how deep your illusions ran. Because she is not the reward. She is the test. And the man who passes it never needs to ask what love means again. When she ignores your goodness, it is not to spite you, it is to see if your goodness remains when unnoticed. When she withholds affection, it is not because she is cold, it is to feel the gravity of your presence unshaken by silence. And most men fail this. They rage, they retreat, or worse, they beg. But the man who stands still, who does not flinch in the absence of comfort, becomes something else in her eyes. It's not entertainment, not service, steel. Understand this. Her love is not applause. It is reflection. In the ancient myths, heroes did not win love through poetry. They won it through pain. Odysseus was not adored for his feelings, but for his survival. She is drawn not to the man who pleads to be loved, but to the one who suffers like it is his rite of passage. But she will only stay when you've proven you can survive without being seen. She will only kneel to the man who does not kneel to her. Because deep down, A woman wants to surrender, but only to a man who has already surrendered to something greater than her, to purpose, to truth, to pain itself. And when you suffer like that, not to manipulate her, it's not to earn her, but because suffering is the road to sovereignty, then she will see you not as a man in need, but as a man worth following. The weak man believes she will love him more if he cries. The strong man knows that weeping has its place, but it is not in the temple of love, because to her deepest instincts, the man who suffers openly is asking to be mothered. And she does not fall in love with her sons. She falls for the man who takes the weight of the world upon his shoulders and never asks for applause, who builds in silence, who endures invisibly, who rises even when no one watches. Achilles did not inspire devotion because he was gentle, but because he could rage and still remain noble. Schopenhauer understood this, that the man who truly commands a woman's admiration is not the one who opens his wounds, but the one who bleeds with dignity. She may kiss your scars, but she only respects the ones you do not show, the ones you bear silently while carrying the unbearable. See, what she seeks is not your comfort, but your endurance. That is the paradox. You want her to see your pain and stay. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes that suffering is not an accident, it is a design. Not hers, not society's, but existence itself. You bleed not because you are weak, but because you are alive. And she is not your healer. She is the blade and the test. To ask why she doesn't reward your tears is to misunderstand what the trial is for. She was never sent to comfort you. She was sent to see if you could carry your pain like a king, silently, steadily, without begging for understanding. This is the cruel beauty of nature, the place where Schopenhauer found his truth. That your agony is not meant to be cured, it is meant to be refined. The woman watches you suffer not because she is heartless, but because she is ancient. She is not just a person, she is the face of nature, and nature does not pity. Do not run from her power, you rise into your own. Stop offering your pain as a gift, and instead transmute it into steel. You stop waiting to be seen, and become someone who sees clearly. You let her test you and you thank her for it, not because it feels good, but because it wakes you up, because it breaks you open. Because in her eyes, you saw who you were not, and that ... That is when the man begins. It selects. When she is cold, it is not a punishment. It is a mirror. It reflects whether the man she sees before her can survive the weight of his own soul. And when you mistake her indifference for cruelty, you fail the test. Because the woman, like the storm, cannot be blamed for your fragility. She does not want your apologies. She wants to feel the furnace behind your silence, the volcano inside your stillness. She wants to know that if the world burns, you remain untouched, unshaken, unmoved. So what then is the path? It is not withdrawal. It is not resentment. It is sovereignty. There is no greater illusion than the belief that love is owed to you for your suffering, that if you break yourself open enough, bleed enough, kneel low enough, she will reward you with her softness. But women do not love men for their wounds. They love men who survive them without complaint. Schopenhauer knew this bitter truth, that the man who demands sympathy from a woman will receive nothing but her slow retreat. Because deep down, she does not trust the man who collapses under pressure. Not because she is cruel, but because her instincts whisper that collapse is contagious, and she must survive. You want her to see how much you've given, how deeply you've loved. But that's not what compels her. What compels her is what you withhold, what you master. The parts of you that remain firm when the storm arrives. And so she tests, not to hurt you, but to measure you. She withholds warmth, not to punish you, but to see if your fire still burns without her breath. And most men fail. They crumble. They plead. They perform. And in doing so, they teach her to lose respect. Because what is pitied cannot be desired, and what is desired must be, in some deep way, untouchable. So you must become untouchable, not arrogant, but self-contained. A man who does not need her light to be seen. A man who walks through rejection without shrinking. A man who gives not to earn love, but because love is already within him. That is the man who attracts, not by reaching, but by radiating. That is the man who commands, not through demand, but through presence. And that is the man she longs for, even if she doesn't yet know why. The tragedy of modern man is not that he suffers, it is that he believes his suffering entitles him to love. That if he is loyal enough, patient enough, wounded enough, she will eventually look at him and say, "You've earned me." But Schopenhauer would scoff at such naivety. Nature does not reward the loyal, it selects the sovereign. And sovereignty is not born from devotion, it is born from detachment. You suffer because you still believe she will save you. But no woman can rescue a man from his need to be rescued. She does not want your desperation, she wants your discipline. She does not crave your tears, she craves your clarity. You think withholding your needs will make her curious, but she is not watching what you say. She is watching what you can withstand. That is the primal contract. Not spoken, not romantic. Brutal, yes, but true. She will never admire the man who puts her above himself. She will only admire the man who walks away when his soul is being compromised. And if she returns, it will not be because you chased her. It will be because you didn't. So stop trying to earn what should be met. Stop trying to prove your worth through pain. A man's value is not in how much he can bleed for love, it is in how much of himself he can hold back when love turns to trial. That is the great test. Not how loudly you can love her, but how silently you can walk when she no longer hears you. You were not made to be chosen. How you were made to choose. And until you understand that, you will confuse your suffering for romance and your humiliation for loyalty. You call it love, but Schopenhauer called it illusioned, the lie that convinces a man to kneel willingly. Believing that his suffering is sacred simply because it is for her. But suffering without self-respect is not sacred, it is pathetic. You give her your heart, your energy, your dreams, hoping she will return your soul, wrapped in gratitude. But she returns nothing because nature owes nothing. Her approval is not a gift, it is a signal. A reflection of your standing in the silent, brutal economy of biology. And biology has no pity. This is why she grows cold when you become too available. Why she pulls back when you open up too quickly. When you carry your solitude like a crown instead of a curse. When your silence becomes a fortress instead of a prison, then and only then does she feel your power. Not because you withhold affection to manipulate, but because your attention is no longer for sale. And that is what she has never seen before. A man who cannot be swayed, a man who cannot be bought, a man who suffers, yes, but never for validation, only for truth. It is not cruelty, it is instinct. She cannot admire what clings. She cannot respect what orbits. The more you try to prove yourself through offerings, the more she senses your emptiness. And nothing is less attractive to the feminine than a man who looks to her for permission to be whole. You think your devotion is noble? But to her, it is just noise background static behind the real music of masculinity. Presence, purpose, silence. A man does not become irresistible by chasing. It becomes irresistible by ceasing to need. She doesn't leave because you weren't enough. She leaves because you made her everything. You offered her the throne of your identity and expected her to sit there gently. But no woman wants to rule over a man who cannot rule himself. And so she tests not to destroy, but to measure. She pulls away. She grows silent. She delays because somewhere within her, even if unconsciously, she is asking, will he crumble without me? Will his spirit dissolve in my absence? Or will he remain unmoved like the mountain? This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said that women are loyal to the moment they are bound to nature's pulse.
At your pulse.
They are not here to rescue you. They are not here to nurse your unformed manhood. If they do, they will resent you for it. Because no woman truly wants to mother the man she loves. She wants to witness his mastery, not his neediness. And so the more you suffer for her approval, the less she can give it. Not out of cruelty, but because her instincts whisper, if he bleeds so easily for me, how will he ever protect me from the world? So suffer, yes, but suffer with backbone. Struggle, yes, but struggle upward. Bleed, but never on your knees. The modern man has been taught to feel guilty for his strength and to apologize for his desires. He has been told that vulnerability is virtue. But there is no virtue in becoming a shell of yourself to please the very force that is meant to awaken your power. You were not born to beg. You were born to stand, burning, battered, undefeated. The moment you embrace that truth, she may love you or she may not. But for once, it won't matter.